You were in the group when you were posting that, not on your page.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Yeah, that's not good.
No.
I'll
Hi.
share it to the group, but you can do it from your page.
I think I'm on now. I should be on Soul Heart Entertainment.
Yes.
Awesome. Fantastic. You know, technically, they've really made oh, there you are. I see your text. Wonderful. That's fantastic. Good news. Let's move some light around, see what's going on here. Hun, if you would do me a big favor and close the things, because it's just not working for. Anyway, hello. It's Toes Tuesday. Yay. Tuesday Toe Talks with Jamie Allen Bishop, Soul Heart Entertainment here. Let's see if that helps. I don't know if that's gonna work. Hello, thank you for joining me. And yeah, let's talk toes. So who knows what toe reading is even? I know my honey does, because he knows by default, just because everything I've learned, he's learned all along as well, whether he wanted to or not. Thank you, babe.
You're welcome.
So toe reading is this idea that when what we think about, especially what we think about the most, therefore what we believe in, it shows up in our body. Now, it could show up in our body in a great way, and it could show up in our body in a challenging way. You know, and that's one of the things that I love about toe reading, because toe reading is this, it's kind of, to me anyway, it's this combination of all this woo-woo stuff that I love, but also there's some science to it, because the science to it has to do with how we go about holding on to things in our body. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. I don't know who's there, but thank you for joining anyway. If you have any questions, definitely type them in the... Oh, great. Now I need a charger for my phone. Oh, goodness. Anyway, so we're going to talk about toes here. And one of the best things in the whole wide world about toes is that they house what we're thinking, and specifically what we're subconsciously thinking. So when we have these thoughts that are, you know, helpful to us and, you know, keep us on path with our destiny and our purpose in life, that's fabulous, and that's when everything kind of feels like it's going well. And while there may be monkey wrenches in the path to create the excitement that we humans desperately desire in our lives, otherwise we get really bored with life very easily. But so those, you know, those roadblocks show up when we're kind of cruising along. But if we're really focused on what we want to accomplish and how we want to accomplish it, it doesn't matter whether it's showing up as challenge or whether it's, I just need the cord, honey. Sorry. Hold that thought. I have a phone that needs to be charged. I wasn't expecting to have to use my phone again this time around. But anyway, so when it comes to toe reading, we're talking about how to get, there we go, how to get from this idea that we are, that we're holding on to the good things, and that when we're on our path and there comes bumps in the road, there are good bumps and there are bumps that maybe shouldn't be there, or should is the wrong word, but that have a tendency to throw us off track. That's a better way to put it. So when we're on track with with the goal in mind, even if there are bumps in the road, we still continue on the path to get to that goal, right? When we're off track, that can, you know, drive us really far away from our goal. And if if you're somebody like me who has had a goal in mind or has had even multiple goals in mind that they want to reach, and every so often you're focused on something that totally is out of it's not the right path, and you know it's not the right path, but somehow you've lost focus on the goal, essentially. That's where toe reading comes into play and can really, really help guide you back to the road that gets you to your goal faster. That's what it comes down to. So I love that about toe reading, and it's super, super helpful when we can look at our own bodies and find where we're off from reaching our goals, and however that works for us. So one of the things that I share, or that I have shared in the past, is my version of the toe reading map, which has the elements. It has all 5 elements. It has yin yang situations, and it also has the chakras, how the chakras show up on the feet. The only thing that it doesn't have on this particular map is where the spine and where the body shows up on this map, which I may add in the future. But for now, this is just my own little drawing of toe reading as it stands. So when we're talking about the left foot, we're talking about the yin self, or the in self. When we're talking about the right foot, we're talking about our yang foot, or our external self. Hi Janice, thanks for joining us. So with the left foot, it's our interior self. So it's kind of how we show up on the inside. So everything that shows up in our toes is where we're thinking the most, or how we're thinking the most. And that has to do with our inside self. On the right side, or the exterior self side, it's kind of how we show up in the world. It's how we present ourselves. Maybe in business, it's how we communicate. It's how we, explain our big picture, that kind of thing. So that's kind of how that works. How the elements work in toe reading has also to do with what's being read on each of the toes. So, for example, you can see ether is on the big toe. And if you think about what ether is to the elements, you're thinking about kind of how everything gets pulled together, or how everything is connected to each other. And sure enough, if you look at what that means, ether is the destiny or big picture in our lives. So isn't that kind of neat? Air is our communication, and how communication shows up in our toe. And I explained before, or last time, it's kind of shows up in our hands the same way, very similarly to how it shows up in our toes. But if you think about your pointer finger or your second toe, that's all about communication. We like to drive what we say with our hands, or I do. But that air toe is all about communication. The middle toe is a fire toe. That's all about action and temperament, and how action shows up in our life. And if you think about where that looks like on the fingers, you can see the action there, or the temperament, as it were. The water toe is about our relationships. And if you'll notice, that's where we wear our rings when we commit to relationships. So it's kind of apropos that the 4th toe is the water toe, or the relationship toe. Then lastly, we're talking about the earth toe, which is the only one that's different from side to side, but it's extremely related. So they're both very, very, and really the same is true for right and left. On the earth toe, it's how we're connected to the earth in regards to our faith and trust on the left side, and our prosperity and abundance on the right side. Okay, so if you look at the bottom, you're talking about the relationship to self versus the relationship to others. The last thing that I'll mention as far as what it looks like in how the direction of the toes is, this line down the middle is the past. So if your toes or or toenails are leaning to the big toe, then it's kind of about how we're using our past thoughts. In the future, or if it's leaning out toward the baby toe, it's more about where we are in our future and that we're thinking thoughts that are very future tense oriented, if that makes sense. Let me give you some examples here. So, for example, I have a photograph here of some feet where you can see that this big toe is coming along and then all of a sudden it kind of curves toward the future tense. So if I were sitting with this person, I would say, where are you putting your big picture or your destiny into the future? And what does that look like? And is it serving you? Is it serving your highest purpose in life? Is it serving your destiny or what God is wanting you to do while you're here on earth? And, that's only something, to me, that's something that only the individual can answer. I can't answer that for my clients. I have to pose that as a question to enlighten them to think deeper about where their future thoughts might be stopping them from achieving what they need to achieve right here, right now. So in this particular instance, we're looking at somebody who has a lot of future thoughts and a lot of big plans for her future or his future. I'm not sure on these toes. But the good news is that we can change our thoughts. We can change our thoughts virtually instantly as soon as we're aware that that's how we're thinking. And when we're talking about a negative person versus a positive person, or somebody who kind of always sees the glass as half empty versus half full, and my daughter says it's always full because it has air or water or both, that makes it full 100% of the time, which I love. She's super, super funny that way. But I'm looking for another example of where we can find somebody who's maybe looking past tense a little bit too regularly. Okay, so these feet are a little bit gnarled in how they're showing up, but if you look at what they're doing, they're kind of all leaning in toward the past line. So when you're talking about somebody who has toes that lean toward the inside, you're talking about somebody who's very much in the past. And what do they say about that? The past is, the past will make you depressed. The future will make you anxious. The present is the only way to remain happy. So I would question somebody who's kind of stuck in their past around their thoughts. How is that serving you? How is that helping you to stay on the path of, your ultimate destiny? What purpose you're here to serve, right? So if, in particular, I just want to point this out on these toes. The relationship toe is very bubbled up here. And so what that might tell me is that this person is holding back or is very worked up and holding on to a lot of stuff from the past, specifically about relationships. Or at least that's where it stems, if you look at that. And that's the left foot. I know it's probably, reversed for you guys when you're seeing it, but because this is the internal self foot, and because that relationship toe is super, super juicy is what I call it, a juicy toe. So the juicy toe kind of indicates that is something we're holding on to very, very strongly from our past, because the toenail is leaning to the past, to the inside of the person. And, just how is that serving them? Maybe it's easier to play a victim role. Maybe it's easier not to face what happened in the past, if that's, obviously to me, anytime we're focused on the past, we're focused on trauma. We're focused on something that didn't work out the way that we expected it to work out. And so where is that serving you in your life? Somebody who has that past thinking toenail or toes in general is going to be somebody who's a little bit more likely to be depressed. There's somebody who's a little bit more likely to be, I put it in cartoon terms. So it's going to be somebody who's a little bit more like Eeyore, let's say, than like Tigger. So Eeyore is just a little bit more like, woe is me, I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know what to do, so a little bit more like, I kind of think of the that character, the victim mentality, if you will. So where is that showing up in your life? In order to get past that, there's ways to own it and to journal on it and to get it out. There's a method that I use with my private clients called emotional freedom technique. And it's tapping. It's tapping on very specific points on your body, and as you say things, to help release that emotion that we hold on to. That's so, that gets us stuck in places that don't serve us. So let's see, what else can I talk about while we're here with this? Okay, so because I mentioned the pessimistic, the pessimism, I'm gonna just show these toes and just show where that shows up, okay? So if you look at this is the right foot. No, I'm sorry, this is the left foot, and this is, because if they were sitting like this, this would be oh, this would be the right foot, and this would be the left foot. So externally, if you look at that communication toe, it kind of takes a dive to the earth, really, is how I see that. So when I think of somebody who has a toe that dives to the earth, I think of somebody who's kind of holding on for dear life, somebody who's a little bit afraid, maybe. So in this particular case, I would say that this is not somebody who voices their opinion very often, and who probably has a very different opinion than the people that she's surrounded by. Hi, Pat, thanks for joining us. So for example, but you can see that, or I can see in looking at the communication toes between the right foot and the left foot is coming out a little bit straighter. It's not quite as dived to the earth. So one of the things that I know is that about this person is that she's done a lot of internal work. She's done a lot of work to try to help her communication be a lot more positive, try to encourage herself instead of being hard on herself. But out in the real world, she's holding back. She's holding back in her communication, and it just makes me, it's so funny because I don't necessarily know who has these toes. These are, internet feet, if you will. And one of the things about that is that it's fun to imagine what the challenges are that these people are facing when I look at their feet, because I can see so much in the toes. Now I'll show you this picture, because this picture is, here, I'll put it up right. But this is the left foot and this is the right foot. And you can see that all of these toes come very straight off of these feet. And so I would imagine that this is a very straightforward person. This is somebody who's, what you see is what you get. This is somebody who shows up exactly as they are inside. So when I see toes like this there's not a whole heck of a lot going on there, as far as, there's not a lot of, like on these toes, you can see on that big toe, there's a line. Some of these toes are going to the inside, some of these toes are going to the outside, so hi Jordan, thanks for watching. So we are talking about these toes, which are super, they're coming straight forward. There's really not a whole heck of a lot going on with these toes. But if you look at it very, very closely, the thing that jumps out at me the most is the baby toes, okay? So see, if you look at the baby toes on this picture, what you're looking at is externally, they show up with a lot of faith and trust, a lot of prosperity and abundance. But internally, they're falling short. And you can see it just in the length of the toe itself and the fact that the toenail turns out to the outside, okay? So see how it kind of is laying on its side. Now that's me really dissecting what's going on with that person, because overall that person is a very straight shooter. It's gonna be somebody you can rely on. What they say is what they're gonna do, et cetera, et cetera. Those kind of things are how you can tell when somebody's showing up with super straight toes. But so one of the challenges that person faces is having faith in themselves, having faith in God above, having faith and really trusting that everything's going to work out exactly how they want it to, right? So that's what we would delve deeper on if that person were my client. So, all right, that's a lot of information in a very short period of time. We've been on for about 20 minutes now. We've gone over the toe reading map. And I guess this is the point where I would answer any questions if you have any. Does anybody have any questions about toes or feet that I can answer? I know there's a little bit of a delay, so I'll just hold tight, wait to see if anybody has any questions. Nothing in particular? All right. If you do come up with something, let me know. I'll just keep talking about these pictures that I have. Okay, so we'll go back to this one with the red polish. And one of the things that I want to point out is this thing right here. Okay, so thank you. I love this. It is so fascinating to me. It's kind of where science meets the woo-woo in life. So on this one, you're seeing how the toe kind of comes back here, and on this one, you're seeing how the toe kind of comes back there. And while it's natural to have a curve, these toes are special in that where the toes meet the foot is not where the bones meet the foot. Okay, so you can see there's a little bit of extra skin right around there, and it even comes out to over here, okay? So I would say that this is somebody who's super intuitive, and they probably don't use their intuition enough or they don't trust their intuition enough to make decisions for themselves. So this is their interior foot, this is their interior self, or how they view themselves. This is how they show up in the real world, the right foot. And when you're intuitive and you don't act on it, your middle toe will show up as, sort of webbed, if you will. It's, the webbing isn't showing up so much on this one, but it's obvious to me just based on where the toe hits the foot. But the action toe is kind of, you can see that line across the middle of the action toe on the interior self, and then on the exterior self, you can see that it takes a dive to the earth. So it's kind of holding on. And so with the relationship toe on the inside kind of laying over, I'm wondering where in this person's life are they kind of rolling over in their relationship, and again, this is their relationship with themselves, and not taking the action necessary that they know they need to take already. So, I would encourage them to trust their intuition and know that they will be supported in any decision making or any action that needs to happen, especially around relationships, because those two toes were a little bit, that she has some challenges going on there. Again, I don't know whose toes these are. I stole these images off the internet. You know what? Another thing I wanted to point out. God bless her. It's a good example in so many different ways. But one of the things I wanted to point out on this one was that these toenails, if you look at somebody else's toenails, look at those big toes, okay? If you look at somebody else's big toes, you can see big, wide nails, okay? On this set of toes, we're talking about, they kind of come to, those big toes, the nail kind of comes to a point. Do you see that? A little bit more, certainly more than, let's say, these toes. These toes come out, they're nice and wide, so if the toenails are the windows to your ideas, or the windows to the soul, if you will, they're kind of like our eyes. The toenails are kind of like our eyes. So when they come to a point like that, what I'm wondering is, or what I know about this person is that she's very driven. She's very single-minded when it comes to the big picture in her life. So there's good stuff that comes with that. My question to delve deeper into why that is, or how that's serving in the best way possible, is what is she not seeing because she's being so focused? So it's almost like the horse that has the blinders on. They can't see that bigger picture. They're going to be really amazing at getting tasks done and checking off to-do lists, but they're going to be a little bit challenged in the way of seeing the bigger picture. Does that make sense? So that's kind of where I would start with that person. But there's so many places to start, aren't there? And I've talked about way too much to get super heavy into. But if there's any questions that anybody has about anything involving the toes, now's your chance. We have about 3 more minutes. Okay, so if you look down at your toes and you describe your toes to yourself, you can be sure that those adjectives are adjectives that are things to journal on, if you would. Now, whether it's positive, whether it's negative, whether it's neutral, it doesn't really matter at all. But one of the greatest things in the whole wide world is to take a closer look at where you are with your thoughts, because the way that toes show up is the way that we're thinking right now, and sometimes it's our subconscious thoughts. So that's the thing that's really, really cool, is where are the subconscious thoughts showing up that you didn't even know that you had. So if you describe the toes as, if you describe these toes, you're describing somebody who has very long toes, right? Long toes, they come out and they go to the left or the right, depending on which direction it is, but they go away from the center line. So that's very future oriented. If you look at, kind of the bubbling up of the spacing between the toes is super important. So they're nice and evenly spaced. So this person really, really loves to have everything organized. So when things aren't organized, what does that look like? And you know, baby toe is kind of hidden a little bit under that relationship toe. So where are there faith and trust or prosperity and abundance hiding in relation to the relationships that they have in their lives? And how are they not kind of stepping up to the plate, if you will, when it comes to that faith and trust and prosperity and abundance? And if they're not, if they are, and it just happens to be a relationship that is, you know, kind of codependent on each other, why is that happening? And where can you adjust that in order to gain a little bit more independence and a little bit more self-reliance, so that you feel more confident in yourself in relation to your relationships? So that's a lot. That's so much information, you guys. What I'm going to do is I'm going to post this, the toe reading map, in the comments below so that you can take a look at that and come up with some questions. Every single Tuesday from 6 to 6:30, I'll be here on Facebook Live, and hopefully we'll have lots of questions and maybe even some pictures to share next time. Love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Talk to you again soon. Bye for now.